All right, let's jump right in. Today we're doing a deep dive into Avenue Supermarts.
DMart.
Yeah, most people probably know them as D-Mart.
Exactly.
We've got a whole stack of company documents here, financial statements,
Investor presentation,
press releases.
board meeting proceedings, the whole shebang.
We're going to really try to get a good look at what's happening behind the scenes at this major Indian retail giant.
Think of this as like getting your hands on their playbook. You know, their strategies,
Yeah.
everything.
Their Q3 FY25 results, they just came out, and their press release is front and center, strong double-digit revenue growth, standalone and consolidated, both for the quarter and the 9 months.
Standalone, they saw a 17.5% increase this quarter. So that puts them at a pretty substantial Rs, 15,565 crore.
Wow.
But consolidated, it's even higher. R is 15,973 crore.
That's impressive. But I did notice when I was looking at the financials that, profit growth, while still positive, it's not as strong as that revenue growth. And margins have actually dipped a little bit. What's the story there?
Yeah, that's actually a really important detail to pay attention to. Because the CEO, Neville Noronha, in the press release, he actually specifically calls out the increased discounting that's happening across the FMCG sector as a key factor here.
Interesting. So because everybody else is lowering prices on, packaged foods, personal care items, that sort of thing.
Right. Those everyday essentials.
D-Mart is feeling the heat.
Exactly. They got to stay competitive.
Okay.
And this isn't just a D-Mart thing. This is actually like a wider trend we're seeing across the Indian retail market. It's getting more competitive. You've got more players all vying for those customers. And a lot of times that leads to these price wars.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, so we've got this backdrop of increasing competition. And then reading through these board meeting proceedings, we see this big leadership change that's coming.
Yeah.
Neville Noronha, he's been CEO for a long time. He's stepping down in early 2026.
Right.
And they've appointed this new CEO, Anshul Asawa, coming from Unilever.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
What do you think about this transition?
I mean, that's a big move. Especially considering, like we said, this increasingly competitive market. Noronha has been with D-Mart for a long time. He's seen incredible growth. I mean, think about it. They started as, a small operation, and now they have over 380 stores across India.
Yeah.
That's huge. But bringing in someone like Asawa, I mean, he comes from Unilever. That's a huge player in the FMCG world. That could signal a real shift in direction for D-Mart, strategically.
Almost like they're bringing in an expert.
Right.
From the world of their competitors.
Exactly. He's got the inside scoop.
Yeah. So we've got this big leadership change. But D-Mart is still, their core strength is still there.
Yeah.
Brick and mortar expansion.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're not slowing down. The investor presentation showed they opened 10 new stores this quarter alone.
And it's not just random expansion. They've got this really deliberate approach, a cluster-based strategy, they call it. I was looking at the investor presentation, and they actually have a map showing how they're targeting specific regions and building out their presence there.
So they're trying to, dominate those clusters.
Yeah, exactly. It's about catering to those local preferences and establishing dominance in those specific areas.
Interesting. But, while they're busy building all these new stores, they're not ignoring the online world. They've got D-Mart Ready.
Right, their e-commerce platform.
It's expanding too.
Yeah.
But one thing that really jumped out at me from the press release was they said their home delivery business is now much bigger than their pickup point sales. That's interesting.
What do you make of that? I think it shows how, even in a market like India, where, brick and mortar retail is so strong, consumers are really starting to embrace the convenience of online grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Like, people are opting to have groceries delivered right to their doorstep instead of going to pick them up. And that raises some interesting questions about D-Mart's overall strategy, right?
Yeah, are they going to try to, ramp up their online game even more?
Yeah.
Or are they going to stick with what they're really good at, which is those physical stores?
It's a tough call. And then on top of that, they've got these challenges, like the ongoing disputes related to the goods and services tax, the GST.
Oh, right.
I was looking at the financial statements, and it looks like they're facing demands of, get this, Rs 133.47 crore for the standalone business.
Okay.
But for the consolidated level, it's even more. Rs 235.98 crore.
Wow.
And to be clear, these are listed as contingent liabilities, meaning that Dmart is contesting them. They haven't set aside provisions for them yet. So they're basically saying, we don't think we owe this money.
Right, they're going to fight it.
Exactly.
But for our listeners out there, I mean, this highlights the kind of, complicated regulatory landscape businesses in India have to deal with.
Oh, for sure.
And the outcome of these disputes, I mean, it could have a big impact on Dmart's financials down the road.
Absolutely. It just shows you that even a company as big and successful as Dmart is not immune to these kinds of external pressures.
So we were just talking about this leadership change that's coming up at Dmart.
Yeah, it's a big one. And I know it's really got market analysts talking.
Yeah.
It's not every day you see a CEO, especially one who's led a company through such, incredible growth, decide to step down.
I mean, the press release really highlights, Narana's 21-year journey with Dmart.
Right, from the beginning.
He's seen it all, from, a small operation to this retail, powerhouse they are today.
Over 380 stores? I mean, that's a lot of stores.
It's a lot of growth. And that was all under his leadership in a period of, immense change in the Indian retail landscape.
For sure.
And now he's choosing to move on. It makes you wonder, what went into that decision?
Yeah. What does it mean for Dmart's future?
What's next?
It's tough to say, what his exact reasons were for stepping down, but the timing of it, it's interesting, especially with this new CEO coming in, Anshul Asawa, and he's coming from such a different background.
Unilever.
Yeah.
That's a giant in the FMCG world.
Totally different world.
Yeah. So, I mean, he spent years in this industry that's basically supplying the products that Dmart sells.
Right. He's been on the other side of the table.
Do you think this was a strategic move by Dmart? Did they bring him in because he's got this insider perspective on the FMCG sector?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, think about it. He knows how those companies think.
Yeah.
He understands consumer preferences,
Yeah.
product trends, pricing dynamics.
All that stuff.
Yeah, and that could be hugely valuable for Dmart, especially now with all this competition they're facing.
We were talking before about Dmart's, EDLC, EDLP model.
Right. Everyday low cost, everyday low price.
Their signature strategy. But, do you think that's still sustainable in today's environment?
It's a good question. I mean, it's certainly been successful for them so far. It's built their reputation. Dmart is known for offering good value and no-frills shopping experience.
Right.
But you have to wonder, with the rise of e-commerce, changing consumer expectations, do they need to make some adjustments?
Especially since their online venture, Dmart Ready, I mean, it's really showing how consumer behavior is shifting. We were talking about how their home delivery business is much bigger now than their pickup point sales.
Right. And that says a lot about where the market is going.
Yeah.
Even in India, where, traditional shopping is so ingrained, people are wanting that convenience.
That home delivery option.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that raises some interesting questions for Dmart.
It does. How much are they going to invest in building out their online operation?
Right.
The logistics, the infrastructure. Can they even replicate their cost advantage, that EDLC part of their model online? When you've got all those delivery costs.
It's expensive to deliver groceries.
It is. And these are big questions for Dmart's leadership to grapple with. For Narona, as he's, on his way out.
Yep.
And for Asawa, as he steps in. But it's not just about online versus offline. They've got to think about how they maintain their price leadership.
Yeah.
When you've got, rising input costs, inflation.
Yeah. All those external pressures. And let's not forget about those GST disputes.
Oh, right. Those are still looming.
That could really impact their profitability and potentially, force them to rethink their whole pricing strategy.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw in the financials, potential liabilities of over as 235 crore at the consolidated level. I mean, that's a real concern for Dmart. I think it's a good reminder for anyone out there listening. When you're looking at a company, don't just focus on those top line numbers.
Yeah.
You got to understand the whole picture, the environment they're operating in. How well are they positioned to deal with all these challenges?
Yeah. Because in Dmart's case, I mean, their success, it really depends on a few key things. Can they adapt their EDLC, EDLP model?
Right.
Can they figure out this online expansion thing? And can they manage these regulatory hurdles, like those GST disputes?
It's a multi-dimensional puzzle.
Yeah.
And they've got to solve it if they want to stay on top.
Now, with this new CEO coming in from, a totally different world, It'll be really interesting to see what he does, what changes he makes.
Asawa's FMCG expertise, I mean, that could be a game changer for Dmart.
Yeah.
But we'll have to wait and see how he uses it, how he tackles these challenges.
It's a story that's still unfolding. Okay, so we've talked a lot about Dmart, their performance, their strategies, this leadership change that's coming up.
Right.
But I want to zoom out a little bit
Yeah.
and talk about what this all means, for you, the listener.
Yeah, it's important to connect these details to the bigger picture. I mean,
Yeah.
Dmart's story, it's really like a microcosm of what's happening in India's entire retail sector right now.
So by understanding what's going on with Dmart, it helps us understand these bigger trends that are shaping the future of retail in India.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like take e-commerce. Even a company like Dmart, I mean, they built their whole empire on these physical stores,
Right.
but they can't ignore the fact that people want to buy their groceries online.
Yeah. And Dmart Ready, I mean, that shows how quickly things can change. Consumer behavior.
Yeah, it's a wake-up call for all the traditional retailers in India. Adapt or die.
And it's not just about, offering an online option. Consumer expectations are changing, like, across the board.
Yeah, they want convenience, they want more choices, they want competitive prices, of course.
So, I mean, does that mean Dmart's, like, famous EDLC, EDLP model, does that even work anymore?
Well, I mean, it's worked for them so far. They're known for their low prices, that no-frills shopping experience.
Yeah.
But maybe, maybe they need to tweak things a little bit. It's not just about being the cheapest anymore.
Yeah. You got to offer a good experience, too. Online, offline.
Exactly. It's all connected.
It makes you wonder, who are Dmart's real competitors now? Is it just, other supermarket chains?
I don't think so. I think it's much broader than that.
Okay.
You've got all these online grocery platforms, the quick commerce apps promising delivery in like minutes. You've even got those neighborhood Kirana stores, A lot of them are starting to use technology, offer home delivery.
Wow, so they're facing competition from, like, all sides.
Pretty much. Everyone's trying to get a piece of the pie.
And then we have to remember, the regulatory landscape.
Right.
Those GST disputes.
Yeah, those are still hanging over their heads.
And that could really impact, their bottom line.
Absolutely. It could force them to change their pricing. And I think that's just a reminder that, success in retail, it's not just about what you do internally.
Right.
It's about understanding all these external factors.
So where does this leave Dmart? I mean, can they hold on to their leadership position?
It's a tough question. I mean, they've got some big challenges ahead of them, but they've also got a lot of strengths.
Right.
And with this new CEO coming in
From the FMCG world.
Yeah. It'll be really fascinating to see what happens next.
I think this deep dive, it's given everyone, some context, some things to think about.
Yeah, some key insights.
So we encourage you to keep exploring. Check out Dmart's website.
Read some industry reports.
Yeah. Stay informed.
Because things are changing fast.
And that's the only constant in a market like India.
For sure. The more you know, the better.
All right, well, that wraps up this deep dive. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.